Steinhart. A psychotherapist for over 25 years, an innovator, a survivor, a revolutionary himself, an inspiration, and now a rising star. At times we require ourselves to look up upon the many professionals out there, and there are literally thousands of them, from psychotherapists, psychiatrists, life coaches. Where do we choose? And how do we choose? But often we just need that very someone who truly knows where we have been. And Hal Steinhart is indeed that very person. He will meet you at eye level because he's been there. Not only is he a professional himself, but he has been diagnosed with many of the emotional, depressive, and in the many anxiety disorders from where many have sought professional help. And now he is here for you in his own podcast as the host for tonight's show, The Hal Steinhart Show, an inspiration himself, a guiding light, and perhaps even a friend for yourself on your own journey to your own sense of self-rediscovery. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you Mr. Hal Steinhart.
I would like to welcome back my listeners to the Hal Steinhart Show, 9th edition, and any Memorial Day observers. As my listeners know, I have overcome 15 emotional disorders. And after my first breakdown, was adopted by Joanna Zadi Bray and her family in East Cleveland. I'd like to welcome my family to the listening audience today. The reason I talk about my emotional disorders openly is to encourage other people to get help for themselves, because most therapists, most people don't talk about what they've been through. And if people don't know that people have gotten better, why would they try to even get help for themselves? That's my primary goal in this type of approach. What my listeners may not know is that I have been a counselor for the military for the last 15 years, which shows it can be a mental health exam. And before that was the mental health counselor at the Oberlin Air Traffic Control Station in Oberlin immediately after 9/11. As this show attempts to serve all victimized people, about a month ago I had Haven as my guest, who work with veterans, homeless, and other homeless people. And today, in that same vein, my guests are Dave Preston and Papa John of Furnish a Veteran, furnishing new hope to homeless veterans, which provides furniture to homeless veterans in their new homes provided by the VA. So, I guess I'm going to ask Dave maybe to kick off the show and talk about his experience about how he became homeless. So, Dave, are you there?
Absolutely, I'm here. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so what I guess started me on the entire process was, I actually did some consulting. I spoke at events all over the world. I made some pretty serious money for a long time. Did really well, had a good run. Actually made close to 6 figures a month a couple of times. Ran a very successful consulting business, wrote some books, did some other things. And I started to become ill in 2012, and they couldn't figure out what was wrong. And they finally tracked it down to what they called a lipid-coated virus. It was like a really nasty relative of the West Nile, and that I'd picked up overseas. And they said there's currently no cure for it, and unless something changes, his exact words were, if it continues on the rate of duplication that it's currently on, it would surprise me if you made it to the end of the year. And it had already killed 2 people that were on the same team I was on over there. And I started actually taking coconut oil, of all things. I won't get into all of that. And it started knocking it in the head. And it actually kept it at bay, long enough. It didn't cure it, but it kept the viral load count low enough until they did come out with a cure. And I took that and got rid of the virus. and then found out the same week that I had developed hepatocellular carcinoma from the virus, that had left me a really nasty, friendly relative.
Is that cancer or something else? Okay, all right.
Yeah, hepatocellular carcinoma is 92% fatal.
Wow.
And they made really sure to tell me that. The oncologist actually said she had seen 7 cases of that in her 30 years, and she didn't have any survivors, which is very encouraging to me.
Yeah, it sounds like it, yeah.
So I actually went through the treatments there, started doing some other things, and I guess the guy upstairs had different plans for me. I got to the point where I lost everything. I couldn't work, and unfortunately, as a consultant, that everything was built around me. I didn't have enough sense at the time, and I was too much really of a business control freak, to think that anybody else could do it, so I didn't outsource anything. It was all up to me. So whenever I started declining, that was the end of the business. So over the course of 3 years, I went from, living in a gated neighborhood in a custom home, down to actually losing my life, my wife, my everything, and wound up living in the woods. And my liver got to the point where it was controlling the aorta, it was controlling the hepatic artery, it was controlling the blood pressure, and they couldn't keep it under control. So they had to go in and do surgery, and they found out when they got ready to discharge me that nobody was coming to get me. So they sent in a social worker and eventually figured out that, hey, this guy's homeless. And a pretty good indicator of that was the backpack that I had with me had everything that I owned in it. And the social worker went through it. She pretty much knew. She'd seen it, dozens of times. So she was like, you don't have any place to go to, correct? So when I admitted that, they sent me to a VA-sponsored homeless shelter, a separate charity. And what an awesome opportunity. If any of you guys are listening and you're homeless and you're a veteran, this is a new policy, too, that came in place this year in January of 2016.
So
you can go to any VA hospital in the nation. And it doesn't matter if you're alone, if you have a family, if you're living in your car, in the woods, if you're couch surfing, that is considered homeless as well. So you can go to any VA hospital in the nation anytime and go to the urgent care clinic, which is open all the time, and tell them your situation. They'll give you a complete checkup. They'll also feed you and your family and put you up for the evening. And they will arrange to get you into a sponsored program within 48 hours. And it was a turning point in my life in a major, major way. I cannot tell you guys how much that was worth. They put me in a 2-bedroom townhome with 3 veterans total. We got $50 a week to buy any groceries that we wanted to buy. They would take us to the grocery store and back. They had cable TV. They had, you name it, it was in there. Computers, whatever we needed was there. Washers, dryers, it was good. They also gave us a bus pass. So if you didn't have a vehicle or couldn't afford gas or whatever, you had transportation. They had people that would work with you to get you a job, to fill out referral forms, to get you off of any addictions that you had or drug dependencies that you were on. So my 2 roommates had to go through a couple of track systems to get off of that, but they did. And it's a 90-day program. And then once you graduate successfully from that 90-day program, you can get a grant from SSVF. The social worker will automatically put that in there, and they will actually pay your back utilities, catch it up to date, and they'll pay your rent and utilities for 4 to 6 months, depending on your income. But after you move into the home, that's it. They're done. Once you move in there, I moved into a bare place and had a $12 sleeping bag and a pillow from Goodwill, and that was my furniture. That was all I had.
Now, Dave, I'm going to interrupt you here because we talked about this yesterday. I thought this was the maybe in many ways, what you just said was critical. I hope every veteran out there is taking notes, or anybody who's a friend of a veteran is taking notes. But we talked about when you were down to the sleeping bag and down to the pillow. Okay, but that was your inspiration, I think, to form to do the program. It's like, well, I can't. So tell me more. I think that's what I was, what it sounded like yesterday, and it sounded like very, very, very profound. What happened then?
Yeah, it was. You're exactly right, Hal. It was, to me, as an entrepreneur, and I'd built a successful company before. I knew what I was doing. I have that type of a business mind, thank God. And I'd been through the entire system. So whenever I got through that system and I was healed, and I can fortunately now say that, I'm not on any medication at all, no cholesterol, no blood pressure, nothing. And I'm in very good shape. And, that's because of probably the real doctor upstairs. That's what I say. Right. But on the flip side of that, it was profound to me to sit down and write down what I could do to change this for other veterans that I knew that were still in the shelters. So I said, I can't live like this. I can't imagine. This would be very depressing to go through all of that work and get clean and sober and get a job and do what you need to do.
And live on the floor.
Yeah, and then to sleep on the floor. Really? Mm-hmm. And then you're back to the shame and the pride part of it, because you don't want to get to know any of the neighbors, and you right. Can't invite anyone over. And
not a sleeping bag.
No, I mean, pull up the floor and cop a squat, Mm-hmm. So what I did was I started going and visiting local ministries that were within walking distance of where I was at, within a couple of miles. I wound up actually walking 4 or 5 miles a day, every day. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I would visit them, and I had a storage unit that got donated to us that was a larger storage unit. And I talked the guy into donating it to us and what we were going to use it for. And I started getting all these people that would bring the furniture to the storage unit. And then I started contacting the local homeless shelters for the veterans. There were 3 of them in the area of Charleston, where I live, South Carolina. And I got in with the social workers there and the case management system. And I actually eventually got our intake form submitted through the VA paper trail itself. So Furnish a Veteran is now actually an intake form in the process.
Right.
I'm really, really happy about that.
Mm-hmm.
But I actually furnished 100 veterans in about 7 months of the first year I started, pretty much by myself.
Right.
And I was just ecstatic.
Right.
You
didn't take being on the bottom as the end. You just said, well, what can I do? And you basically started an organization that's, going to help possibly hundreds, if not thousands, of veterans if they decide to get out of the woods. And I think from your experience, I think they may also reconsider if all people in the VA and the system are not trustworthy, because it sounds like, if you didn't have some really good people working with you at the very beginning, before you got into the 90-day programs, and people with you after you got the vouchers for the furniture going, that it would be pretty hard to do it all by yourself. So like you said, it seems like there are a few good people in the system somewhere. Otherwise,
there is. There are a lot of good social workers and case managers that are in the system that take a very personal, interest in the veterans that come through there. And that's what I saw. And I'm not just saying this, guys. If you're listening to this and you're homeless and you got some problems, seriously check this out. What's it going to hurt? Talk to them, let them get you set up, and it can be a major difference.
Right. Yeah, like I said, I'm not in the VA system myself, but I do work with the military as a counselor, and I think I've already stated I've been pretty screwed up myself. So therefore, all the people you're going to see in the system aren't necessarily goody two shoes.
Most of the social workers, actually, I found, are the best. I mean, some of the caseworkers can be a little bit hard.
Right.
I think that's learned behavior.
Right.
But on the other side of that, I think the social workers, everyone that I dealt with, was really understanding.
Right.
They were very compassionate to what I was going through.
Well, I think, like I said, the guys who don't trust the system need to keep what you're saying in mind, because you were in the system, you almost died in the system, and you survived, and it was because of a lot of the good, caring social workers you met along the way. It wasn't just a fluke. And I have to say, I'm a social worker myself, so therefore I thank you for all these compliments. So,
that's
anyhow.
a fact. I mean, there were times, and I'm not going to kid you. I mean, that was the lowest point of my life. I went from having everything you could ever possibly imagine, down to having absolutely nothing. Mm-hmm. And it was the pride that kept me in the woods. I didn't want anybody to know.
Right.
And that was what kept me there.
That was what?
That was what kept me there.
Oh, your pride. Okay, all right. Well, as you know, as we talked yesterday, that's a lot of the reason a lot of veterans don't get help, because of their pride, and they don't want to get screwed over again like they got screwed over the first time when they got sent somewhere they didn't need to be. But hopefully your message of what happened for you as a veteran, and later we'll get to Papa Jim, but the whole system isn't corrupt. A lot of it is. A lot of it's inefficient. But as you said, there's a lot of good social workers out there who do care and do their best to give people what they need. I think what you should do, Dave, is you got to put a pamphlet together about your beginning of the program. I like artistic things. Make something colorful that catches people's eyes, because, like I said, the beginning is a really great story, and like I said, it could really be converted into something more tangible. I don't know if you ever thought about that, but it just seems like a really good thing to work with.
That's a very good idea. Thank you for that.
Right.
We do have some marketing materials and even a media kit, that's just come together, and we're starting to spread out rapidly. But what we're doing is a very controlled momentum. Is we're only going through the VA because that way it vets it. We know they're a vet. They're already vetted by the time they get to us because they're referred to us by a VA case manager. Mm-hmm. So we know they're a real veteran, not a poser. Right. And believe it or not, I get tons of those calls all the time.
Right.
And it doesn't even make me angry anymore. I'm just like, okay.
well, every system, every system people take advantage of. And just out of curiosity, you might want to explain what a poser is, because some people may not get it right off the top.
It's just anyone who actually poses as a veteran when they're not. Mm-hmm. And that's a crime nowadays. Mm-hmm. So, and it needs to be.
Right.
But I can normally tell with a couple of questions, this person has no clue.
Right.
They've never been in the military.
Right. Well,
the good part about everything is once they get through the system, is we're just going to the VAs, and we're operational in about 3 states right now. We're spreading out more and more and more. Mm-hmm. The great thing about that is we can furnish an average right now of about 100 veterans every 90 days, and that's where we're at. Our current goal, our first major stepping stone goal, is to get to 1,000 veterans served per month.
And those goals are conservative based on the need figures you've already talked about.
And that shocked me.
What's that? The numbers you found out about? Yeah. Maybe, and Papa Jim, please be patient. But maybe you might want to share the dimensions of this problem, because it's like I said, I thought, well, maybe there's 35,000 veteran homeless, maybe 40,000, but that's not the case.
No, it actually shocked me. And instead of going online, because, of course you can't believe everything you read, and one person sent me something just pretty much sums up the internet.
Right.
You can't believe everything you read on the internet, and that was quoted by Abraham Lincoln. So
he wasn't around. Okay,
Correct.
go ahead. No, okay, I caught it. All right.
So I was like, that's pretty funny.
Right.
But what I did was I just went to the Department of Housing and Urban Development, because that's who we work through. We work through the VA and what they call a HUD-VASH voucher system. You know, so what happens, they apply for the grant, the SSVF grant, and then HUD-VASH goes out and inspects the place they chose to live and makes sure it passes inspection and it's up to standards. And then they'll grant them the voucher and they move in. So since that was our primary target and who we served, I did all my research through them. And what I found out was that in January of 2013, they did an annual point-in-time count. And they found out that an approximated 1.6 million unduplicated persons use transitional housing or emergency shelters. And of those people, 633,782 were veterans.
And that was in 1 month only, right? January of 2013.
Yeah, that was staggering to me.
Right.
You know, and
So
what that doesn't count, those are the people that used, no, I think that was for the whole year. That said, the point of the study was in January.
Okay.
But it was for the entire prior year, so it would have been for 2012.
Right.
So that's over 500,000 people. You know, and those are just the ones that are moving into the shelters and out of the shelters, you know, and many of them are still homeless. And what a lot of people don't realize is because of the pride, these guys are very self-sufficient. I mean, the military did a good job training us. You know, so we can live in the woods and we don't care.
Right.
You know, so a lot of times we would rather just fly under the radar and stay away from everybody. So a lot of this problem is just the tip of the iceberg. You don't even see these people. You know, they're the invisible homeless people. 72% of all the homeless in America are veterans.
Right. So, basically, you got a documented, 600,000 homeless veterans on paper, but you have no idea how many other veterans there are in hiding, basically.
Correct.
And so let's go back to our discussion yesterday. Might as well throw it out here, because I did say that 1 month before you and Papa Jim came to the show, I had Whitehaven as my guest because they serve homeless veterans and other homeless people. But now the director said that basically homelessness has pretty much come to an end in Cleveland. That it's going to be declared a homeless veteran-free zone by the government, and several other major cities are in the same category. He said, except, now here's the question. Okay, here's the point here. He said, except for those who refuse help. Now, of course, if you heard that statement, you'd say, well, there's probably 5 or 10 out there not refusing help because everybody wants to get help. So what do you? So what are your thoughts on that one? Because it was like obviously they do good work. I've heard good things about them, but they're
sure, me too. Great organization.
Yeah. So but the bean counters, when they say all the homelessness veterans taken care of except those who refuse help, based on what we've been evaluating, we've got 500,000 veterans who are in the system barely, and then we could have another 500,000 to 1 million who are refusing help. Basically, would that be a fair assumption?
That's a pretty fair assumption. When I was in the cadre that I lived in the woods, there were 23 veterans in there, and they weren't dangerous, but they were definitely territorial.
Okay.
That was their turf. And I've seen church organizations, police officers, all kinds of stuff that would come to the edge of the woods, and these guys are ready. They're like, get out. And out of the 23, there were actually only 4 of us total that got out of that situation.
Oh, and the other guys are still there, probably.
Correct.
Okay, so therefore you have 1 million veterans who, because of mistreatment in their eyes from the government, won't get close to anybody, who has anything to do with any authoritarian power or whatever, and therefore they'll stay there. So we have a kind of like about 1.5 million homeless people that are still either in the system barely or staying out of it completely.
Yeah, and their mindset, just so people out there can get an idea of how these people think, and I don't blame them. I went back and talked to Carlos after I got well, and he was pretty much the leader of that cadre out there in the woods. And of course, after they recognized me, they let me right in. But I was talking to him and tried to get him to, look, man, this will help you guys, I'm telling you. And he said, look at it this way. He said, why would I go back to the rattlesnake that already bit me to milk it and get the venom myself? I don't think so.
Right.
That was his exact words. And I totally got what he was saying.
So therefore, you have the equivalent of a small army, actually, that are out there in the woods somewhere. And I think we discussed yesterday, we talked about 2 states. One state where they have almost no homeless veterans, and one state where they have 1 million homeless veterans. So you want to, Ronald Reagan's home state, I guess, whatever that's worth. So go ahead. I think you said there's almost no Virginia, right?
Has almost no homeless veterans. And the reason was they just reallocated resources and money that they already had on the state level. And they committed to that fact. They committed to it publicly that we're going to end veteran homelessness in this state.
Right.
And they just about totally eradicated it.
Right.
They've worked with companies and joint ventured with property owners and everything, and they've got them homes, they've got them houses, they've built places, they've got whole cities there. They're just like small, tiny houses, 600, 700 square feet, and they're all veterans, and it's just like a big, huge park where they all know each other and they're good.
Right.
But they've pretty much eradicated the system. Why the rest of the country couldn't do that, I told Papa Jim before, I said, I would absolutely love for them to eliminate my job. I would love for them to do that. Right. And on the other side of that, you've got California. When I was speaking at an event there, at the height of my career, I was speaking at a joint venture event in San Diego. And whenever I would walk down the streets, they were everywhere. I mean, I'm not kidding you. I mean, you stepped over them on the sidewalk and on the park benches. They were everywhere. It just astounded me. I'd never seen anything like that. I wasn't used to that. And it just shocked me. And later on, I figured out that it's got to be the climate, and just the overall consensus of the mentality of California, I guess. I don't know. But I'd never seen that many homeless people in my life anywhere.
Well, we were in Woodstock. Okay, no, just kidding.
Could be.
I don't know, but I guess the question is, this may be the most important issue of all, which we didn't even touch on yesterday. If we have 1 million homeless veterans who are afraid, paranoid, once bitten, never not bitten, whatever it is, okay, out there, okay. I guess the question is, and I'm sure this is part of your plan, but how are we going to get those 1 million? I hope a few of them are listening to us also. How are we going to get them to come in from the rain, as it says, and some novels, get them out from under the rain so they can have a life. Okay. So anyhow, we were talking about before I asked a question which could take a while, which may be the key question. I mean, yes, you want to get people, get veterans into housing, and we got a population of 1 million, maybe more, that would probably ultimately like a house better than a Volkswagen, and that's rested out in California somewhere. But we'll get to that question. I think that's the big issue.
And we've got a fairly good answer for that, so far. And then we can also talk about my partner in the organization and why I brought him on, and why we work so well together. You know, and how this is going to work out in the long run. And we're just hammering along, hoping we can help as many of these guys as we can.
Okay, so we're about to, take a commercial break. Papa David, do you have a phone number, a contact number, anything people can contact you with?
Yeah, absolutely. They can reach me at 843-460-8637. And that's a private line that comes directly to me. Okay,
perfect. All right. So anybody wants to talk to David more about their situation or someone in your situation, feel free to give them a call. And we will continue the second half of our show in about 5 minutes with our guests, David Preston and Papa Jim. And we will, who are working with Furnish a Veteran, furnishing new hope for homeless veterans. See you in 5. Bye-bye.
The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be televised. But heard instead, dear listeners, through podcast radio on realrevolutionradio.com. Never before has inspirational podcast radio been taken to this next level of wow. Until now. Today, in the age of information, more and more people are searching for answers and in solutions in how to better approach and perceive every day-to-day concerns by tuning in to realrevolutionradio.com. Isn't it about time we take back our lives, back in consciousness, in a higher state of awareness, in the evolution of our own state of higher well-being? Yes, we can do so consciously every day by tuning in to the many groundbreaking and third eye-opening podcasts. Our new Cleveland-based network of over 33 paradigm-shifting internet talk shows. Only on realrevolutionradio.com. Be part of that change. Evolve. Be inspired.
Can Christy and Ty escape slave catchers and survive a trek through time along the Underground Railroad? Find out in the book Time Underground, Book 2 of American Epics, a middle-grade historical sci-fi series that takes two kids from our time back in time to important events or epics in American history. Meet Christy and Ty, two sixth graders who stole a time machine from their time-meddling teacher and discovered they can alter history. Time travel with them to the American South in the 1800s as Christy discovers an old family tree tracing back to 1854. Her great-great-grandfather, who was a slave, escaped on the Underground Railroad but lost his younger brother to slave catchers along the way. Can she go back and save him? And how will that change the present? If she does, get the answers and a whole lot more in the book Time Underground, written by Todd McClemens. Get this 5-star rated book today by visiting Amazon.com and other major online book retailers such as BarnesandNoble.com. Travel back in time with Time Underground by Todd McClemens. Get your copy today.
OneCoin is one of the absolute best opportunities out in the market. Working with the OneCoin from the start, we're now sharing our knowledge with you to make sure you're also able to work your business in the most profitable way. Let's take a look at the following scenario. I joined OneCoin and invested in educating myself on how to create wealth by mining coins by buying a Tycoon Trader Pack, where with other cryptocurrencies, you have to mine the coin yourself using strong computers and difficult software. OneCoin mines the coin for you, making it easy for everyone to profit from the coin. After that, I recruited 0 people. I had 0 income from the network this week. I had 0 income from the network in total. My commissions account showed 0. You would now think that at this point, I would have made no money at all, and the opportunity didn't work for me. However, my total OneCoins account shows a total of 8,722 coins, and I still have 120,000 tokens left to mine more coins, which will mine approximately another 6,000 coins. I now possess 8,722 coins plus 6,000 coins, which makes a total of 14,722 coins. At this moment, one coin is worth 2.5 euro, which would mean the total value of all my OneCoins are 36,806 euro. Pretty amazing already. Now imagine the coins worth going up to 5 euro. The total value of my OneCoins is now 73,612 euro. Incredible! And if the coin goes up to 25 euro, I would have invested 5,000 euro and would get a return of 368,060 euro. So here you see, I made around 40,000 euro in less than 3 months by investing in education. What if I would have started to build a team and put some effort into it? How much would I have earned? I don't have the exact number, but I can tell you it would be a lot more. Only 17% of the total coins have been mined, so we just started. Join our team and start educating yourself and start to mine coins.
If you would like to learn more about cryptocurrency and creating newer systems of commerce, then call Real Revolution Radio today, toll free at 844-414-REAL. That's 844-414-7325. Find out how we as a community can empower ourselves by creating a better financial future. Again, the toll-free number is 844-414-REAL. Diversify and evolve with realrevolutionradio.com.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Cleveland, we now have liftoff to a higher level of consciousness. Tune in to realrevolutionradio.com, the #1 source for independent music and inspirational podcast radio. Awaken, evolve, inspire, and join the evolution only on realrevolutionradio.com.
Well, this is Hal Steinhart on the Hal Steinhart Show, and I'm back with my guest, Dave Preston, and Papa Jim from Furnish a Veteran, Furnishing New Hope to Homeless Veterans. And we had a very interesting discussion in the first half of our show, and we've got lots more ground to cover. And when I was talking to Dave, we were talking about the question that I thought was the ultimate question. If there are at least 1 million homeless veterans who are not in touch with any organization and are living in the woods somewhere, how are you guys, because this has to be the cutting edge for what you have to do to be completely successful, how are you going to reach them and convince some of them, not going to convince all of them, some of them to consider doing something different? I would think, having a
that's a really, really good question. And what we're doing is we're in the process of putting together a welcome kit, to each veteran that we actually serve, which means they've graduated, they've got their place, they're furnished, they're ecstatic. So we're going to use them as a pilot to carry the torch out to the homeless veterans in their particular area, because they'll listen to them. They won't listen to anybody else, but they'll listen to them. I got to go in and talk to Carlos, and it didn't do a whole lot of good, but there's probably a couple of guys that went and saw some help from that. But they can get in places, and they have the credibility, to get them to take the chance, that they weren't willing to before, because, they're walking living proof, that it works.
Right. So basically you're using the guys who've been through the program to reach out, because they're not government, they're fellow brothers, they're fellow soldiers,
and they validate the whole process.
Right. That sounds...
So they get that, and we're going to be including that in some of the welcome kits and packages. And, we're also, just so we're actually going to be including, some of your stuff. You and I spoke about that before. Because of the PTSD treatment, that you have. That these guys need that.
Right.
So I'll be more than happy, to include some information in there about how they can get a hold of something. If you're listening, guys, there is something that will help your PTSD. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I'll just touch with it. Yeah, well, I will give you some stuff. Your bottom line is there's the world's most popular trauma treatment, which I used for 9 years, and mine is better. And it usually takes no longer than 12 sessions, period. So, and
sometimes as little as 3, right?
As little as 3, yep, absolutely. Like I said, it's almost miraculous how well it works. But like I said, the other PTSD treatment it's bigger. There are far more of them than there is of me. So, just like the world used to be flat and someone said it was round and they said we were crazy and he was right. So I don't know when I'm going to be found out. I don't know when I'm going to be found out to be right, but that's okay. I'll just keep, trucking along and I'll get the information to you. So thank you very much for that kind offer.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm for anything that's going to help the guys, help the veterans.
Right.
So there was a company called Woodside that published something not too long ago that was pretty cool. But it was staggering to me, because they said U.S. military deaths, since 1999 just died, from natural causes or whatever, was 5,273.
Wow.
And the veteran suicides since 1999 were 128,480.
Suicide rates for the military are at the highest rate ever, So, and if the military's treatments are doing so well, it might be nice to consider somebody else or something else. And I have treated several military people, and they successfully. But like I said, I'm one versus hundreds. But like I said, I'll be around for a while, so I'll just keep plugging away. And if you guys plug away,
and that's all you can do, and we appreciate that greatly. So for us, getting to the point where I started to spread out, and basically I had Wounded Warrior contacted me, a couple of other people contacted me, and it was about people that lived away from us, away from me. And I was doing everything local for a while with a lot of ministries, and I'm telling you, that was a lot of political work, trying to get them to work together. And it was really tough. So as an example, when they called me and said, hey, we've got a paraplegic that has a 7-year-old and a 9-year-old, and they're in a new place and they have nothing to sleep on, and they're an hour and a half away from you, and I was like, oh. And it could be just this simple, guys. So if you're listening to this, you could do this too. I actually jumped on Craigslist and looked under free and got some furniture, and then got a hold of the person that was giving away a whole living room suite for free and said, look, guy, I'll PayPal you a delivery fee if you'll take this to a former homeless veteran in a wheelchair across town because he needs it.
Wow.
Bang. The next day, he had a house full of furniture. So that runs on donations. We're cutting a deal with Hertz Penske and U-Haul and some of the others. ServPro's another one Jim's working on, Papa Jim, and he's been instrumental in all this too. So that we can get these guys the furniture that they need as quickly as they can. And we're just spreading out on a national basis, state by state. And I realized I needed some help. I knew Papa Jim was another homeless hero from a long time ago. And he's in drug and alcohol counseling and aftercare follow-up. And I said, that's a perfect addition for what I need. And he's another marketer and another entrepreneur. So I reached out to him. We started contacting and going back and forth with each other, and it was just a perfect fit. So Papa Jim is here with us. And I'm the founder and director of FurnishAVeteran.org, and Papa Jim is the president of operations, and that works really, really well. It fits. I do most of the public stuff. He does most of the behind-the-scenes stuff, and it's just running like clockwork.
Well, let me ask you something that's a little bit different. VA, they have the 90-day program before they're eligible for getting the free house, okay? And we also talked about the fact that when they're in that 90-day period, they're eligible for drug treatment, everything under the sun, okay? So say someone, gets through it, gets the house, gets the furniture. What happens with the cases, and maybe you said Papa Jim might have some expertise in this, what happens to, say, people who do have the house, do have the furniture, and then all of a sudden drugs or alcohol rears its ugly head after the treatment? Is anything available to them at that point in time or not?
There are things that are recommended to them, but that's the problem, is they're just recommended. And Papa Jim was the first one that really brought that to my attention, because I didn't have that problem, fortunately, thank God.
Right.
But I was just very, very sick. But most of 99% of the guys going through there did. And he said, I'm telling you, unless these guys get plugged into something aftercare-wise, to help keep them on track, they're in trouble. So I'm going to let him kind of elaborate on that. That's more his field of expertise.
Okay. Jim?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Give you a chance to talk here. So what are your thoughts on that? I was thinking, like I said, you get a house, you get furniture, and the next thing you know, you got the addiction alive and well again. And it gets tricky, or does it get tricky? Because like I said, there's a certain amount of voluntary involvement which some people may not be interested in doing. They just may be interested in backsliding. So what are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts, first of all, are anyone who's willing to swallow their pride and do what it takes to make their life better, that's incentive for me and other people. If they're willing to take that shot and do the 90 days. Now, coming out of the woods or coming out of homelessness into a homeless shelter and working with the VA for 90 days, that's a big commitment for them.
Right.
Now, if they have what it takes to stick to it and complete that 90-day course and then get their home and then get their home furnished, that's incentive to do the right thing. Now they have a place, and they can see their life getting better, but the addiction will call, and it's mandatory. If they want to stay clean and sober and continue to better their life, they have to get aftercare. And the VA does offer aftercare.
Okay.
But there's other forms of aftercare too. Free aftercare. Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous. Free aftercare.
Right.
And I've seen so many miracles go through those programs. So many. Hundreds and thousands. And I've seen them firsthand. I've seen them where they were chomping at the bit, but they had the fortitude to get to a meeting before they went and copped or before they went and bought a drink. And once they got to the meeting, 6 out of every 7 stayed clean and sober. There was always the one that got into the meeting. He had the thought in his head. He entertained it enough that it took him. Now, are there any guarantees? There are no guarantees. When you deal with addiction, there are no guarantees.
True.
But I can honestly tell you that if you really want it, it works.
True.
Another thing Jim and I are looking at for exploring is maybe cross-referencing the database of the veterans that have received help from us to find out who else has been through the program that is in that general area, that they can buddy up with. And that makes a huge difference.
I would say it would make a huge difference because people usually relate best to people who they see who have something in common with them. So
right.
And
that's right.
So, sometimes, AA groups are all not alike. Some are doctors and some are, bus drivers. And if you go the wrong one, you might feel out of place and never go back. So obviously, if you hook someone up with a similar background, that's going to increase the probability they're going to get better.
I find the majority of AA meetings and Narcotics Anonymous meetings are a mixture.
Okay.
And I've sat in meetings with doctors, lawyers, bank presidents, and people who were actually living on the streets. And the love, it would amaze you.
Mm-hmm.
It's a neutral ground.
Right.
Naturally, you always get an occasional here and there, I'm better than you. Well, keep an eye on him because he's not going to be around later.
True.
But the people who find that neutral ground, they're still here.
And see, fortunately, like I said, I never had to deal with that problem, but that's what makes Jim and I such a great fit,
right.
for each other. So I've been through the other end of it. And you've been clean and sober for what, 28 years, 29 years now?
28 years. 28. Matter of fact, June 10th will be my 28-year anniversary.
Hallelujah, man. Congratulations. That's awesome.
Congratulations.
Amen. And I never thought for 1 second it would ever happen.
Right.
But I wanted it.
And he's still working with me, too, even though we discussed whether that would drive him to drink, as it would anybody. We'll work together quite well, so.
Well,
I am a
strong,
very...
He's a strong man.
I am a very blessed man. Just knowing David, and David, and the way David and I work together, and we both have the same heart.
Right.
And that makes me a very blessed man to be able to work with someone who has the same heart as myself. And there's no such thing as I want, you don't want, he wants, it's going to be this way. We don't do that. David and I
talk. The first thing we say to each other about decisions is we'll say, how's this going to affect the end user, which to us is the veteran.
True.
Because nothing else really matters.
Amen. Amen.
Well,
so we take donations, and we've actually got it down now to a system to where we're getting ready to start spreading out. We had to systematize everything first. That's just the entrepreneur in me. But we've got it down now to where we're able to furnish a home on average for $53. So for every donated $53 we get, we can furnish a veteran's home. And we do that through donations, through furniture, through delivery, truck rentals. We can use it for that type of thing. And then we're also looking for other furniture retailers, that'll be coming on board nationally so that we can then go get a truck rental. We'll pay for that. We'll give them a tax write-off for the amount of it. They can go pick up the furniture, move it in, bring the truck back. They're good, and they're not out of pocket anything.
Right. And I'm sure some big you've mentioned some big corporations that are backing what you're doing, so therefore that probably brings the price of doing business a little bit down too.
Yeah. And it's also a big part of it was whenever away from me, where we little rural areas or whatever, I could jump on Craigslist and find something for these guys, like the area coordinators will do sometimes. And once they fill out the SSVF form at the VA, then the caseworker fills out a Furnish a Veteran form and gets an intake form over to us, and we get it to the area coordinator. They start contacting everybody. If it's a rural area or a place that's out of the way or out of our contacts, we'll jump on, Free Cycle or Free For All and Craigslist. There's a ton of them.
Right.
And classifieds, and they'll find something in that area and then contact whoever's giving it away and say, hey, we'll send you a delivery fee if you'll take it right across town. This guy needs it. And fortunately for us, 70% of the people we contact say, you don't have to pay me, man. I'll just take it over there.
Well,
that's very fortunate for us at this point because everything we've done so far is out of pocket.
Yes.
All right.
What was it Papa Jim said one time? I said, look, we got 8 veterans this week, dude, and I don't know what we're going to do. This was a while back, and he said, I'm just telling you, man, looking in the account, he said, my pants have holes in the pockets, and I've reached so deep in them now that I'm pulling my socks up. So.
Well, do you want to say anything at this moment to the audience regarding how they can donate or contribute so that they can save your pants? Because really, you could be going to jail. What's that?
And what's in them?
Oh, right.
I'd at least like to be able to keep. I'd at least like to be able to keep, my keys in my pocket instead of down in my socks and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah, but they can actually go to www.furnishaveteran.org, and that's a custom payment site. A website will replace that, but for right now, it's a custom payment site. You can pick anything from $1, all the way up to $1,000 or whatever you want to contribute, and it is tax deductible. So we'll be sending you something. We are a 501c3 corporation, and we're a nonprofit, and so far we're using almost 100% of everything we're doing, is going to furnish these guys.
All right, that's perfect. Like I said, people may be thinking about what can they do, and you just gave them what they can do. That's important. Now, the other thing, which is not directly related, but you did mention at the break that there was some statistics you wanted to share that were, I guess you said mind-boggling. You remember what we were talking about then?
Yeah, that was actually what we covered about the suicide rates.
Oh.
That's just mind-blowing to me.
I saw statistics somewhere, something about one veteran suicide every so many hours. So it was so.
It's got to be so problematic, and if you're a veteran out there listening, you might not realize this, and I know it kind of upsets you. It gets me upset sometimes. If I call the VA for an appointment, and I still use them, the first thing that comes on the line, this is, if you're thinking about harming yourself, they've got an 800 number and a help hotline and a suicide prevention line, and all of that comes on in a recorded message right off the bat before you can get to a real person even.
Right.
So that should tell you
how serious the problem is.
Yeah, how serious it really is. Just wait. Don't kill yourself. Just wait. And I'm like, daggone.
Right.
And I know there's a lot of people out there that have heard horror stories about trying to get help with the VA as far as medical, etc. I use the VA for all my medical needs. And
yeah, me too.
I've always had great care.
Me too. You just have to explain to them. You have to communicate effectively. That's the key.
Amen.
And as long as you do that, it's in their best interest to help you. They really do want to help you.
Amen.
Well, I think, like I said, the VA does have good people working for it.
The only thing that I found out that you were talking about, the social workers and the other stuff, which they're phenomenal. They were what pulled me through the whole process, and they're what pulls all of these guys through this whole process. They're great. If there was any downside to it, is the turnover rate. The turnover rate of the VA staff is just horrendous. I don't know where they go. I don't know what they do. They get promoted. They move up. The social worker that I had was promoted and moved up to the 5th floor from the 3rd floor, and that can be very disconcerting and confusing, to a veteran that's currently going through the program.
Right.
So if there's anybody out there that can change this, work on that. That's the only soft spot, that I could find.
But if the veteran himself sticks to it and makes up his mind that it's not about who is out there, who is doing what, once you get to that point, you are now in the program, and it's up to you to see to it that you stick to it and get through it.
That's it.
Make up your mind that you're going to do the right thing for yourself, and don't let anything get in your way.
Yeah, and the great thing is, they've got people that'll show you how to write a resume. They've got people at the Employment Security Commission that are specifically for HPACT, and HUD-VASH homeless program. They'll work specifically with veterans. They're very familiar. They're a veteran themselves. And they can get you employment. They can get you interviews. They can get you to there and back. I've actually known people, social workers in the VA, that would come out to the shelter and pick people up and take them to job interviews. That was phenomenal to me.
Well, obviously the social workers at the VA do a great job.
They do, and they've got a huge task.
Right.
So if you're listening, don't be afraid to reach out, and like I said, I gave my phone number out earlier, 843-460-8637. Again, I'm David Preston, or furnishaveteran.org. And if you're a veteran, you're having some problems, you want somebody to talk to, or want to know how it works and how it actually worked for me, and just want to talk to me one-on-one, give me a shout. It might take me a little while to get back to you, but I call everybody back.
That he does.
Okay, Hal, we got 2 more minutes. 2 more minutes.
All right, well, I'm going to wrap it up then, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Absolutely.
Okay. Gentlemen, David, Papa Jim, thank you for being on my show today. And I also would like to thank my listeners also. In the following weeks, I plan to have the Consortium to End Human Trafficking on. The Peacekeepers, an organization that is committed to ending gang violence, who has partnered with Metro Health Hospital to this end. And possibly Edmonds, a restaurant that hires only ex-prisoners. And finally, for all you therapists who are out there, I am teaching my trauma treatment method July 29th, cognitive behavioral sensory desensitization. Please call for details at 440-554-8912 or email me at maccabee216@AOL.com. And any of those who are suffering from PTSD or any trauma, it really can't hurt to reach out to me, someone who's been there and has a powerful new technique that's short-term in treatment, short-term in length, 12 sessions maximum. You can reach me at the same phone number and the same email address. And in my most outstanding trauma treatment case and most damaged, who was on show 2, Betsy, she was the most traumatized I ever worked with CBSD. She had 20 years of therapy before me, 6 sessions with me, and is doing great after 6 years. She's been on my show once. I think I'm going to bring her back for another appearance on the show just to reinforce how my method helped her. She's alive and well, and she's doing great. So, thank you again, David and Papa Jim, for joining me today, and maybe
Thank you so much for helping us get the word out for these guys. I appreciate you so much, Hal. You're the man.
Well, thank you very much. Anything I can do to help, and like I said, if there's more things I could do in the future, just let me know.
Yeah, and we'll get together on that welcome kit and your PTSD therapy, because I think that is crucial. Thank you so much for volunteering that. That's awesome.
Okay, no problem whatsoever. I will, after the show, which may be in a few minutes, I'll just pick up your contact information that I need to send the stuff to. We can get things rolling.
That will work, my friend.
And God bless you for your caring heart.
You're very welcome. And same to you for all the great work you're doing, because like I said, you're on the front lines. And but like I said, if they need help on the back lines, I'll be happy to be there. So thank you for joining me on the Hal Steinhart Show. And I will see my next guest, the Consortium for Ending Human Trafficking, hopefully next program. Take care. Good night.
Bodies in a chair across from me. Take it upon yourself to separate deception from the truth, so you don't live the faded light right on through. Well, wouldn't worry about it if I was. if I was you. You get that look in your eye, same time every night. Thought that I'd grow tired, but I'm alive. The way the mind wanders itself divides. The way the mind wanders itself divides. The way the mind wanders itself divides. It divides. The way the mind wanders itself divides. Tied one on and took it upon myself. Ooh, to separate the fiction from the fact. Till I was lying on my back, coming to. I wouldn't worry about it if I were you. I wouldn't worry about it if I were you. I wouldn't worry about it if I were you.